Hello, welcome to the Manual Handling Collective. I'm your host, Simone Hepburn. I'm a physio and manual handling educator, and I'm passionate about injury prevention. This is a podcast where I speak frankly with the brain's trust of manual handling and other amazing industry leaders in and around the occupational health and wellness community. You get to meet them, you get to be inspired, you get to learn from their stories, and you get to stay up to date with the latest and greatest in manual handling and wellness. So let's crack on. Today you'll meet Nico Knibbe, who's speaking to us from his homeland in the Netherlands. Nico holds a master's in human movements and has devoted the past 33 years to the field of occupational health, specialising in musculoskeletal disorders in healthcare. He's a researcher and educator who's written over 100 articles. Is that right so far?
Yeah, so far, yeah. Thank you.
Good. Your company is called Locomotion, which you co-own with your sister physiotherapist Nico Knibbe. Are my pronunciations right so far?
You can do it. It's the way we say it is knibbe, but if you say nib or nibble or whatever you want, it's fine. I'm fine with that.
Great.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah.
Knibbe.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Okay, so together, Hanika and Nico create all of the Netherlands' resources around patient handling and have trained tens of thousands of workplace trainers, which they call ergo coaches. A little story behind this podcast. We were hoping to catch Nico Knibbe when he was in Australia. He was invited to be the keynote speaker at our Australian Manual Handling of People conference last year, which was unfortunately cancelled, and then again this year, which was unfortunately cancelled due to COVID-19. So here we are. The next best thing is we have brought Nico to you virtually. So welcome virtually to Australia, Nico.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry you couldn't be here in person.
Yeah, it's very sad, but
what were you looking forward to?
Well, just being with you and meeting you and sharing knowledge and that's something we miss, and I guess you have the same. It's for 1.5 years now. You miss talking to people and miss discussions, and so that's
Absolutely.
what we miss. Yeah. But also Australia.
You've been out here before. You were out in 2014. You came to our manual handling conference in Brisbane. Yeah. What did you like about Australia then? What were you looking forward to doing this time?
Yeah, I must say I only was there for a week, and it was an incredible trip. I had the conference for, I think it was days, and then I went to Melbourne for one day, and then I went to Sydney for one day to do a presentation. So it was really crazy. So I didn't see much of the country. I'm sorry about that. But of course, I had the opportunity to speak to loads of people. So that was it was like a, how do you say that?
Like a whirlwind?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but I really enjoyed it. But I must say, I promised myself next time, if there will be a next time, to go there for a couple of weeks and take time and relax. And
yes.
So
sounds brilliant. Before we dive in, just one question about COVID-19. I know we could talk all day about it, but tell us briefly in the Netherlands, how has COVID impacted you in the Netherlands and your daily life and your work?
Yeah, well, of course, it has a huge impact on everybody here in the Netherlands and in Europe, the same as it has for you. But professionally, we're supposed to work in our homes, as I do now, because this is my home office. I got a little office in the garden, so that's the way I work, and that's it's incredible the way we can do a lot, but it's you don't have the real contact with people. You don't have you don't have the seminars and the discussions. So it's a bit boring. So we're looking forward to open up and go out. But personally, I had a COVID infection last year, which I recovered.
You told me you had to home home quarantine for 2 weeks.
Home quarantine. Yeah, I just actually slept in my office here. I had a sleeping bag here and slept here, and my wife got brought me my food. That's the way we did it, because there was no, we couldn't get any vaccinations by then. So that's the way we did it. We were, of course, very, very careful. And but she got infected as well, and my daughter got infected. So, but they all, we all went quite well. Just 3 or 4 days, we were sick. So we're now vaccinated. So we, yeah,
and have you recovered fully?
yeah.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good to hear. Now, let's dive into your career. So, with all the guests, we like to hear a little bit about their career journey and what has led them to where they are now. So, can you tell us a bit about where you started, what motivates you, and why you're passionate about this industry?
Yeah, maybe to tell a little bit of story. It was back in the late 80s when my sister and myself, we were students in Amsterdam, and we went to earn a little bit of extra money. So we started training nurses at a nursing school, and they asked us to do manual handling techniques and train them, but we didn't have any issue what it was like. So we had a little booklet with all the techniques, the Australian lift, hug lift, whatever, that kind of stuff. So we just started doing that. And
the Australian lift we're not necessarily proud of anymore in Australia.
No, I know.
Since we don't use it anymore.
I know, but it was in the book. So we did it. Well, actually, it's quite a mechanical. It's quite a smart lift, but it's not safe, but it is a smart way of doing things.
Yeah. For those who just to interject, for those who haven't heard of the Australian lift before, if they weren't around when that was happening, it was basically a shoulder into the shoulder of the patient, and then kneeling on the bed. Yep. And then together you squeeze in and drive them up the bed.
Exactly. So you make a kind of building a bridge. With the patient in between.
Person in the middle.
Yeah, right. Which was a smart idea, but not safe. And then my sister, she's a little bit older than I am, and she did a piece of research, and we asked the nurses that we were training before our training and after our training, and if they suffer from back pain. And before the training, 18% of the nurses said, yes, I have back pain. Young nurses. And then they went into the nursing practice, worked, and had our training. And then after 1 year, more than 80% suffered from back pain. And we thought, what's going wrong? Because we trained them. And then so that was quite a striking thing. We had no idea what went wrong. But that was on I knew somebody who was a journalist, national newspaper, and she put it on the front page of the national newspaper, like, wow, there's something really going on here. There's a big, huge problem on the nursing, and we're, spoiling our nurses, back pain. And then, that was the rest is history. So that's the way we started.
Because the 80s was sort of even before the no lift came out of the UK, right? Because
true. Yeah,
I was reading one of your articles in 1989. You started the Ergo Coach project,
right?
And no lift wasn't announced in the UK till 92. So
That's
you've been
true.
working on this for a long time.
Yeah, the funny thing is that
what keeps you going?
Yeah, but the funny thing is that we went to the UK in the early 90s before they had this no lift policy, and we did a lot of training there. We traveled all over the country and train the British, basically, which is a funny story. But your question was what keeps you what keeps us going? Yeah. Well, it's more than 30 years now, and I was thinking, and I think what keeps us going is two things. You see, if you speak to nurses, and we do a lot, there's nurses all over the place, and they're still suffering from back pain. They still have issues, and the average age of the nurses is going up. So and the mobility of our patients is going down. Obesity issues. So there still is a big problem, and so that's one. And the other thing is that we get motivated because there's more and more people, not only in Holland but all over the globe, who are picking up the subject and are working on it. And like you, for example, Simone, in this podcast, that there's more and more people doing this and motivating, giving ideas and sharing knowledge. So that's it's another
that's
way
motivating.
of yeah, it is definitely, yes. So I think
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure the listeners would agree as well that there's so much to learn from other countries and from sharing. So, I know when I go to a conference and I go back to work and, if I can sprout something at training that I've learnt, about patient handling in another country, it adds value to what I can give and also adds credibility to the industry.
Right.
So you are the perfect person now to enlighten us on a few international differences. There's a few reasons I think you're the perfect person. One is that the Netherlands is about the same size as Australia, so we can do a size
population
comparison
wise
between not land size.
No.
Talked about that. Australia, I think, on the map covers most of Europe and the UK and then some. Land size, but just population we're the same.
Just for your idea, if you go from east to west in Holland, it takes you about, let's say, half a day on a bike.
On a bike.
Yeah. So that's it.
Wow. I don't know, east to west in Australia on a bike. I don't know. You wouldn't make it.
Takes you half a life.
The other reason you're useful to enlighten us is that I know you've been involved in some international projects around the world, and just where you're geographically situated, you're easy access to Europe and the UK. So I'm sure you're going to have some great insights. Before we talk though about other countries, tell us a little bit more about the healthcare system in the Netherlands and about safe patient handling in the Netherlands.
Yeah, what we most of our healthcare is funded by funded by our government. So that's I think that's important to know. The same counts for the things we do, and people who are in the patient handling field. Almost everything is funded by governmental bodies. Some of it is funded by, for example, by the vendors or social partners or other bodies who are sponsoring you. That's but most of it is governmental initiatives. Just because because well, the main reason is, of course, we have to take care of our nurses, because we cannot miss one, because there's a huge shortage of nurses, and these shortages is even getting worse and worse and worse. So we have to put money in that. That's the biggest reason.
So in the Netherlands, then you have so what's your role in that then with locomotion? You tell us.
Our role in it. What we do different things. Our background is research, so we do a lot of research. As you said, we wrote more. I didn't count them, but I guess you did. More than 100 articles, more than pieces of research that we do. We still do that. So that's our role. But also, we always do studies and translate that into tangible things that nurses can use, or managers can use, or physios, or anybody who's in the field can use on a daily basis. So it's not research for the research or for getting your PhD or whatever. It is, it has to lead to something that's useful for the nurse. So that's what we do. We do research. We do, for example, we make tools like assessment tools, et cetera, but also websites and booklets and posters and everything that helps getting the subject, the message across.
So all the training resources for the whole country are consistent. Everybody's using the same modules and the same materials.
Yes,
sounds like a utopia of patient
handling. But it's not mandatory. If I wake up this morning and I think, okay, this is yeah, like I just give you the book. Let me see, just use this. This is a booklet that we use. Here are all the,
Seen
you know,
it.
the techniques, you know, everything is in it.
Yeah.
But if I wake up one morning and say, okay, this is rubbish, we need something new, a new philosophy, a new tradition, whatever, I'm perfectly free to do that and get the message across and write articles and try to get my message across in hospitals. So that's not mandatory, no.
And it sounds like it's not prescriptive. Is that what you're saying? You're not prescribing, you must do this. You've got some options.
Yeah, you got some options, but we have what we call guidelines for, how do you translate it? Physical load, guidelines, physical load. And it's just a one pager. And that is mandatory, that it's enforced by the labor inspectorate. So for example,
every technique or thing you do has to fit with those principles.
Yeah, I can give you one or two examples. I don't know if you work with the mobility levels, A, B, C, D's, E's.
I know them.
Oh, right, okay.
I know them.
For we use them in Holland all across the country, and what one of the guidelines says, if you have a C and you do a transfer with a client in mobility level C, you must use an active lifter. You must.
So for those listeners who don't know the A to E, so A is the most independent, right through to E is the most dependent. So C is that person.
Is in the middle, yeah. And when you move to a D, then you must use a passive lifter, and that is enforced by the labor inspectorate. So you have to do that. Otherwise, you know, you're overloading your back. So, and for example, another thing is another guideline is if you shower a patient in a seated position, you must use a high-low shower chair.
Oh, I love that.
That's another one.
On your website, the Till Thermometer website with the risk assessment on it. And
but we're not there. We're monitoring that, you know, and I think about 60%, maybe 60% in long-term care of the patients who are showered seated are done on a high-low shower chair. We're not there, but it should be 100% because we know from research. If you do that on a not high-low shower chair, you're overloading your back. You know, this is crystal clear.
I went to a nursing home in Australia, and I'm not saying this is everywhere, but the last one I was at had no height adjustable shower chairs.
Yeah.
So I think we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, but I'm sure because we are, you know, Hanneke and myself, we are in this business for more than 30 years now. If you look back 30 years, you know, sometimes I look over pictures and I go, wow, this is, you know, it looks like before World War II, but it was incredible. Yeah. But it is, you know, it is changing. It's changing rapidly, and I'm very sure that the nursing home that you mentioned now, if you have the opportunity to go back there in 5 years, it will be different. It definitely will be different.
Yeah. So for the listeners, can I confirm as well that your training and your resources that you mentioned, they cover the context of acute hospitals as well as aged care facilities and in-home care situations as well.
Ambulance care, everything, all the where people are working with each other, let's say.
All the cares.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I want to switch on to other countries. So from your involvement in safe patient handling around the world, I'm curious about what are some of the common themes and then the differences. Like, would most countries that you see use a train the trainer model?
I think there's a question before that, because what I think is you see a lot of countries focusing on training. For example, UK has a huge tradition on training. And we were quite surprised that when we went there, so they do a lot of training. And because the basic question is, we want to reduce back pain. Can we do that by training? Or maybe we should tear down the whole hospital and redesign a new one. Maybe that's more effective. Or maybe we introduce lifters or sliding sheets or a combination of, you know, maybe that's far more effective than doing training. And that was a quote that I think that was in 1984 by a British professor. And he said something like, no amount of training can correct the situation. You know, you can train people, but if the ergonomic situation is not perfect or optimal, then training is useless, and it's throwing money out of the window.
It's like our example of the Australian lift. That's a training technique, but we're not exactly going to keep training that.
Yeah, the training we did, Hanneke and myself, when we were in the late 80s, that was completely worthless. It actually increased the problem, but we didn't know that by that time. But now, everybody knows that. So and I was talking about training. I think first question is, do we need training? Hopefully not. Hopefully we can solve it in a completely different way. But sometimes you have to do the training, but we prefer not to.
Yeah, and when you say training, I guess we're talking about like technique training, right? Patient handling techniques. We're not talking about training in awareness of risk assessment or training in awareness of how to use equipment correctly.
Yeah, of course, there's different. That's what I mean. Yeah, true. Yeah. Of course, for example, the conference in Brisbane where I was in 2014, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh man, time is flying. Can't believe it. And there was a lot of, I remember workshops and about these kind of topics, about assessment, that kind of stuff. So, and about communication, how do you communicate with your patient in an optimal way that they stand up themselves, for example. So that kind of training is still important, but I'd like to stress that before you do training, get the things in place. Otherwise, training is so, worthless. And that's what you see in different countries. And that's what we've done in Amsterdam in the late 80s. It's the most easiest way is grab a book, read the techniques, and start training. But it won't solve the problem. So
sure. Can you give us some examples? Yeah. Can you give us some examples of different, you mentioned different traditions or habits from different countries? And you mentioned the UK has a strong training kind of tradition.
Yeah. For example, what you see is Belgium, which is really close to us. It's about let's say an hour drive. And the funny thing is that the northern part of Belgium, they speak Dutch. So we, as Dutch, think they have it's the same country, but it's not. They have their own legislation, they have their own, culture differences. And these are they're picking up really fast. So what you see is they do a lot of online things, online training, also really enforced by the COVID situation. So that's, for example, what they do. There is so many. For example, if you look at Eastern Europe, like countries like Poland and Romania, and they have really, really budget issues. So they are, and that's another trap that you easily fall in, because they have money issues. So it's really hard to buy the good equipment. So what they do is they go to training again, because that's cheaper. So and that's
it's not getting them any progress.
No, not. So I was there. That actually was my last presentation on a seminar that was in Warsaw in last year in February, and I was trying to get the message across. Don't do training, but buy things, or get good, but tools get good tools. Do your assessment, get it in place, and there is huge challenges, and there is also how can you communicate with each other? We're now speaking English, but the French, for example, they have their own tradition, but my French is really limited. So for me, it's hard to get, okay, what exactly are you doing?
Yeah. And you mentioned you've breaking down some of those barriers. You have been working during COVID on converting a lot of your material into English. you said some of the websites were being converted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really helpful. I had a look at those, and we'll talk about some of those. Are there any other opportunities or enablers that you can think of that help with this sharing and collaboration around the world? Trying not to have everyone working in their own silos.
What I think that really opened my eyes, I worked on a project a couple of years that was funded by the European Union in Brussels, and that was purely about cooperation in the EU of all these. I think it was 24 countries we now have in the EU. How do we cooperate in getting others healthy? And that's not only about patient handling, but also about coping with stress and
well-being,
aggression, well-being, that kind of stuff, education, and that really opened my eyes about the power of the social partners. The unions, of course, but also the united the employers and the employees, these two groups and it differs per country. In Holland, they're not so powerful, but if you, for example, again in Poland, they're really, really powerful. So if you and I think that's important. What kind of and it differs per country that the social partners can be really, really, really good. Really powerful drivers to get your message across, but also the vendors that you see in a lot of countries. That vendors are one of the first to try to get the message across. We've seen that in Holland as well, and I think in loads of countries that that the vendors are really strong in promoting patient handling.
And I know you do, like yourself, you're researching and presenting at conferences and international projects. Do you have any ideas for the regular folk who are on the floor, like the trainers in patient handling, how they can contribute to this sharing? And
for example, there is this American journal page, Safe Patient Handling and Mobility, wasn't it? Yeah. I think that's a really good. That's I think it's an important one to read it. But I think we should. For example, this podcast is, of course, is a really important one. Yeah, of course. It is. Going to conferences, but that's a hard one. Yeah, at the moment. But we maybe that's an idea. We have a website. It's called ErgoFilm, www.ergofilm.nl, and we asked ergo coaches or nurses if they have a good idea. Just make an ergo selfie of yourself. Tell your story, and then put it on the website, and everybody can watch the videos. Just 2-3 minutes that you say, hey, I got this problem, and this is the way I solved it. Bye bye. And that was.
Okay. Oh wow! So do people comment at the bottom? Is it like a problem solving platform, or is it just a share of an idea?
Basically, all the videos are on YouTube, so you can give your comments beneath. But videos are also on the website. Okay. So, but physically they are on YouTube. Yeah, and maybe that's a nice idea. So like, hey, I'm from whatever, and then from Queensland, and then this is right. I had this issue, but now I've solved it. This is my problem, and I solved it that way. So and maybe that's a good idea. It's really cheap. It's you just need a website.
I think I like that. I think in Australia we have a forum, like a chat forum, nice. So it's more written than it is video. But I really like that angle of the video.
And you can actually show, right? Because sometimes it's about techniques or machine or So that's maybe that's an idea. But it's so
nice one.
I was it's also a bit just asking people. Sometimes people are not very reluctant to ask. I was surprised because we are now working on a study that's about time saving related to patient handling. How can we save time? and it will be published hopefully in the an American Journal of Safe Patient Handling and Mobility. And one of the ways we got our information was just asking people. So we had a group of 20 people all around the globe, and we asked them two things. What do you think are ways of saving time? And secondly, can you substantiate that? Just two questions. And we asked 30 more or less random people we know, and 15 of them responded really good. So that was, I was surprised, because I thought, okay, you get a lot of emails and stuff, and but people, well, they actually responded. So another answer to your question, I think, just ask people. So if you have an issue, just ask people. Why not?
Yeah, I think one of the traps we have in Australia, you might have some feedback for us, because we have state-funded healthcare, we can fall into the trap of just sharing within the state. So if you got any ideas on how we can do better as a country?
You don't have a group of experts or something, or
I guess the forum is probably what I touched on before. The Manual Handling Association has the chat forum, but I guess it's a cultural thing where people look inward towards their state before they look outward to the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Big question. How we change our culture?
Yeah, we don't because we have those emailings. Like every 1 or 2 months, you people can subscribe to those emailings, and you get the news. You send the news, so people can react on that, and like that was the word I was looking for.
Is it a newsletter? Okay.
Yeah, we have that. Yeah, we have the so and that is, we have several of them. That's a way, I think, to build, because you're looking at basically how do you create your community. That's the question. And it takes social media, it takes newsletters, it takes websites, it takes podcasts, and it takes seminars. So that's the problem at the moment.
Yeah, which take manpower and then need resourcing behind it. Yeah. Maybe we need some special. We could do with some special project funding to set that up in Australia would be good.
Yeah. I think we are here in Holland. We are in happy circumstances that the government is willing to pay for these kind of initiatives. But
sounds like the utopia of patient handling. Calling it.
Yeah, but
like a dreamland.
Well, just if you have the opportunity, you're welcome to visit in the utopia.
The utopia of patient handling. Tell me, you have shared with me 5 different websites, which I'll put in the show notes. And there was so much good stuff in there that's free. And you mentioned, that's from your government funding, which is brilliant. Can you step us through a couple of them, and what do you think are some of the best resources for listeners to dive in and take a look at? So the 5 of them. So one of them is your website, locomotion.nl. The other one, these are the 5 I've got. Free Learning. I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but it looks like Goodelbroek.
All right, yeah. Goed
and
gebruikt.
then .nl.
Because an R in it, so that's very hard.
That's going to be tricky for me.
Right.
Till Thermometer, which I mentioned, which was the risk assessment calculator, which is in English, and then Lear Stand.
Oh yeah. Learning mode. That's
how do you say that?
Translation
one?
learning. How it's a tool how to how to get into the learning mode. But the first maybe the first, and that was the good news, that it was translated in English. That's a Till Thermometer. Do you want me to?
Yes.
Do you want me to put that one up, or are you putting it up, or?
If you've got it handy there, you probably get it faster than me. But yeah, if there's anything you want to share about those web pages that you think would be useful for people.
This is the one, I think. Can you see this? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Talking about yeah.
So does till thermometer have a translation,
Well,
or what's
till
the
is another
till
word for
part about?
lift. It's Dutch for lifting.
Okay.
So we decided
Okay.
to translate everything a part of the title. So and it's not very good title because it's more than lifting. It's also about static load, maneuvering, putting on pressure stockings, that kind of stuff. But I think it's a very simple tool. It's something that an ergo coach, somebody who's familiar with the word, can complete within 10 minutes. I will just give you a couple of steps. First, you have to fill in these fields. I sent elsewhere, tulip, number of clients, and it filled in by Simone. I've prepared this a little bit, as you can see. Then you have to put in, for example, the next step, the number of clients per mobility class. So you have the A, the B, C, D's, and the E's. And I think I just have one example here. Yeah, 2 A's, 2 B's, 4, 4, 7, like 6. And then you have to say for those A's, how many of those A's actually do you use a standing lifter or a passive lifter? Then the system starts calculating if it's okay or not based on the guidelines for physical practice. So as I said, if you have a C, you must use a standing lifter. If you have a D, you must use a passive lifter.
And a D.
If you do not do that, then it's not okay. You're in the red zone. Another example of this one is, I will just give you 2 examples. The number of clients that wear 1 or 2 anti-embolism, is that right pronounced? Oh, right, okay, anti-embolism stockings. In this, we have a ward of 20 patients, 16 of them wear those stockings, and only 3 have the correct equipment, putting on, off and on things like Duff and Donner or whatever. The guidelines say that you must use something that you're not allowed to put the stockings on with your hands. You have to use some equipment. Right. An aid, yes. Here, as we said, right.
This is the one about the height adjustable shower chair.
For your nursing home, let's say 20 patients.
Yeah.
0, right? That was correct. Then you click on your results.
Correct.
And then you see the results here. And the red bars are not according to the guidelines of physical practice. And the green bars, parts of the bars are okay, are safe. So these are just and
excellent. So can you then, would someone be able to print that result section out?
you get,
or you just,
yeah.
Does it have a,
and then you can download this in a
get
PDF.
Emailed to you?
Right. Yeah.
Download. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But the system doesn't save your data. It's completely free, but because of privacy, etc., we don't have an in-log, so you don't have to log in. You don't need any keywords or whatever. You just can start right away and put your data in. But once you've then download a PDF, and then you can share that with your colleagues or managers and say, hey, wow, we've got this huge red bar for the shower chairs. It's something we really need to work on. And you can make a plan for the next 1 or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, whatever, depending on budgets.
Yeah, and even in Australia, if we don't necessarily have those same practice guidelines adopted here, it's international guidelines that other countries are adopting. So it gives us a comparison
and here
point
it says,
of what we
here
could
it
be
says,
aiming for.
maybe, I don't know if you can read it, but it is in line with practical guidelines, SEN ISO Technical Report 12296. So it's not only the Dutch guidelines, it is based on research, based on biomechanical studies, etc. So it's not something that's out of the blue.
Made up, Excellent. Do you want to share? I I know your website. The things I noticed about your website is it had links to download or view all of your research articles, and a lot of
Right.
those were in English for people in Australia to have a look at. And then also the what's the
You want,
learning?
yeah, you want to see the locomotion thing? All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think for this one you can use Google. This is the one you had to
Yeah.
use
I think
Google
so. Yeah.
Translate to see
Yeah.
in
If you go
English.
to,
So for those who don't use Google Translate, you open Google, go to Google Translate, you drop in
right.
the website, and
And
then
then,
you adjust the languages from Dutch to
yeah.
English, and then you basically click on the website again, and then you're
Right.
viewing
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
website essentially in English. So it's only a
And
few
then you
clicks
click
away.
on publications, publicaties,
Publications.
and then you can see all the publications. Most of them you can download. It's just everything's
Mm-hmm.
free. That's a good thing about,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the things are funded by our government, so it's free for anybody all around the world. So, but the disadvantage is that most
Brilliant.
of the things are still in Dutch, because our government is not paying for translations. So therefore we were so
Translation.
happy to finally have a till thermometer in English, so that we can share with you, people like you. So, okay, this is the
Mm.
tool we use. That's we think is nice.
Mm.
Yeah. Sorry.
And so the other parts of your website you need Google Translate for. What was the other website? The something learning for nurses.
Yeah, well, that was, let me see. You have to
Mm-hmm.
choose, am I a carer, or I'm somebody who's working like a porter, or, cleaners,
Mm-hmm.
because they have issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just start the tool, and then you can watch a video how it works. But basically you get about,
Yeah.
I think about 12 questions. The first one is, I know the mobility levels, and then you can say, yes, I do know them, or don't know them. The second one is, I know the guidelines for physical practice. You basically you score yourself. It's a self-assessment tool as a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Mm-hmm.
for example, this one, I can work with transfer aids with the small ones. I can use with transfer sheets. I think I can do that. And then when you've completed those, I think 15 questions about pressure stockings, about all kind of transfers, and then you put in your name and your email address, and then the system gives you advice, learning advice, like watch this video, or do this e-learning module, or talk to your physio, or etc. etc.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a
Mm-hmm.
tailored learning advice
Okay.
on your screen as a PDF.
Mm-hmm. And what was the other one that had the modules and the quiz questions that was open to all nurses? It had I think 60 modules, 20 were for patient
That was
handling
free learning.
specific.
Right, right.
Free learning, that's the one. And then I really like the little videos, the scenarios that were in this. I think I did the module about lifting someone
Oh
after a
yeah.
fall. What would you do? Yeah, and the quiz questions were in English. I could get them in English, which
Which
was
really
good.
surprises me,
But the
because I think that's
scenarios,
what Google does, doesn't it?
yeah.
They just translate it's
Yeah,
incredible.
I don't think I didn't have to translate. Yeah, I didn't have to translate that one. I think it
Oh
just
wow.
popped up for me in English.
Um
But the videos were people speaking
yeah.
in Dutch. So I kind of got the gist of what was going on. And some of the quiz questions had some words in
No.
it that I didn't recognize. So I actually didn't
Oh.
pass the quiz. But
Yeah.
the questions were interesting for me, and also the scenarios were just so powerful. It showed me what a great
Yeah,
teaching and learning tool they are.
we started this one, I think, about 8 years ago, and we started doing one or two of those
Wow.
modules, and then it really took off, and we're now looking at more than 40,000 courses a month. So
Wow.
just for the Dutch, Dutch population.
And and this one as well, I liked because you could once you've completed the quiz, it would
Right.
show you a
Right.
certificate of completion. So
Show.
you could you could
Yeah,
evidence
yeah, true.
what you've
Yeah,
been
you
working
need to
on.
80% of the questions
Mm.
you need to answer them correctly, and
You
then
need
you
to pass.
you get your certificate. And if not, you can just try it once again. Um, and it's full. We was quite part of the success, I think, is they're quite short. The modules, it's about, let's say, 20 minutes, half an hour to complete it if you watch all the videos, etc. So, but because what we see in Google Analytics is that when the module is too long, people stop doing it. So we cut those modules in two pieces and make them more like how do you say that, like chunks or chunks, right? Okay, yeah.
Yep,
And it's,
exactly. Yeah. And
sorry,
what about
yeah,
the
and it's
keep
not
going.
only about patient handling, it's about, communication,
All the nursing.
yeah, but
There's some things
exactly,
on
pressure
pressure
care,
care
about
and showering.
malnutrition here, hygiene, all these guys, incontinence prevention, infection prevention. We were really surprised, and the COVID helped us to put this to promote this even stronger, and people are actually using about during the COVID period, the percentage of users rose up to 20% extra. So we really thought, okay, this is the way to go. Combination of live training, online training, but also the certificates are really, really important. We think that's the feedback we get from our nurses. So that's
And the other website, the other website that I can't pronounce, Nico, the Google group.
yeah.
Let me say it again wrong. That one had some great little modules as well. That was the one that was from memory.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is basically, it's just a website with
What
goed
does that
gebruik.
mean? What is
That means something
yeah,
like
that.
use it well, or something. Well using, how to.
Okay.
Basically, it's about more than 200 instructional videos, how to use, how to do proper
Yep.
transfer, how to wash something on somebody
And
in a bath or whatever.
yeah, and I liked how they were again chunked up into tiny little sections. So I think on there, how to apply compression stockings, and I think there was like 15
Yeah.
little videos, and 13 of them were different aids that exist in the Netherlands.
Yeah,
and
for
how to
example,
use them all,
this one
which I
is
thought was brilliant.
Stoonkousen, which is compression stockings. But when I click on it, you get the
Mm.
videos here, 15 videos how to use, because the
Yeah.
yeah,
I
because the
looked at this one.
guidelines state that if you put on you need to
You
use
need to
one,
use
so
one.
you have to then you have to educate.
Educate
Yep.
and
And we
demonstrate.
are,
Yeah, this came up in English.
oh
This came up
wow,
in English for me.
that's incredible.
Yeah, but the videos inside each module was somebody speaking
Yeah,
again in Dutch, so
that
I had to kind of
that
watch
was me,
along, but
by
I
the way.
didn't understand the
I'm
words.
doing the voiceovers
Yeah.
just for budget reasons.
Yeah. But it was a great share of all the equipment that's available, and we don't have anything like
You
that in
mean the
Australia.
equipment
So
or the
I thought
videos?
that was a great example of what's possible.
All right.
Well, both.
Yeah,
We might have all that
I'm sure
equipment,
you
but I
have,
don't know about all of them.
if we look up
Yeah.
equipment, we just Google, and sometimes it says only available in
Yeah.
Australia. So I'm sure you have. Yeah.
Huh. Mm.
So
Yeah,
and
there's a
this
couple
is,
I hadn't seen before.
it's well, for us it would be really, really nice, because we it's free. The videos are free. Anybody can use it, but it would be really super, we think, if we can just share it, and people are willing to make translations or change the voiceovers in English or whatever. If you like it, maybe you have another tradition in Australia and in New Zealand, but if you like it, it's free to use. So now we are really hoping for a more, communication between countries, helping each other out, giving, and this is just free. So please watch it and hopefully
Brilliant.
use it.
I think that gives everyone a good idea of what some of those brilliant resources are out there for them to check out. My last question, Nico, before I let you go to start your day in the Netherlands. If you had to look into your crystal ball into the future, what do you see, and what do you think we need to be focused on in the next short term, sort of 5 years
Yeah.
in the manual handling industry?
Yeah, I can only talk about, the Dutch situation and the things I see around here in Europe. Because as you said, I haven't been in Australia since 2014.
2014.
But anyway, what I see is, I think we can be really, worldwide, we can be really proud of having this patient handling silo. Is it silo or silo? Silo. This patient handling silo, with a magazine and with every, people like you, people like us, there's loads of people who are working in it and are really putting energy in it, free time in it, professional time in it, vendors. So we can be proud of that. But there's a lot of other silos in healthcare, silos of people who are working in incontinence care, skin care, what have you, like falls and malnutrition, that kind of, everybody has his own silo. And I think, looking to the future, I think we need to look at other silos. We need to work really close to other silos. And I have an example.
I talk about
Sorry
to interrupt. I talk about learning from our near peers, the nearest groups around manual handling, and trying to get the best lessons from them.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody who was in, he's working with people who are bad sight with eyes. Yeah, these kinds of, and and then we were talking about, okay, if you can solve that issue by better glasses or I don't know, and then he sees better, and then the chance of falling is reduced, and because of the chance of falling is reduced, there's this guy who was let's say a B doesn't become a D, so you don't have a patient handling issue. So,
and if you don't fall, you can't get a skin tear, and you can't fall on the nurse and injure her on the way down.
Exactly. So I think looking to the future, there's all those silos, and we can learn really much from each other. For example, as I said, better glasses can reduce back pain in nurses. Just, and you've got loads of those rather silly examples, but I think that's the way we should go in the future. Not only focus on lifters and sliding sheets or whatever, but maybe glasses, maybe, these kind of things, or home care, for example, in Holland is really strong. But if you have your tepe on the floor or thresholds, that's also a manual handling or patient handling, or let's say a musculoskeletal disorder reduction issue. So that's I think that's for the looking at the near future. The near future, of course, it depends on where you are in the world. If you're in a it's not a nice word, but in mature countries like with respect to patient handling, I think that's the way to go. But you have to have your silo, your patient handling silo, really, really strong, because that's the way that's the
foundation.
True.
For the next steps.
Thank you. Yeah.
So it's been so great to speak to you, Nico, and hear all of those insights you've given us today. I know that your day is just getting started on the other side of the world.
Yeah,
so we'll
it's incredible, isn't it? Is it dark
get
already?
Into your coffee this morning.
Is it dark already?
I think so.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
And hopefully in Australia, we will get to see you out here one day, or hear from you again in some capacity.
You can also
wherever
come here if you want.
May be.
Maybe you can come here. That's maybe
whoever's free first.
Yeah, but thank you for the opportunity and the platform, and I really appreciate that you're doing this, and that you put, I guess, maybe money and time and energy and whatever in it to so I really appreciate that you're doing this, and I wish you all the best and sharing knowledge, because I think knowledge is free. It should be free and should be shared as much as possible. That we help each other. Basically, that's about it. Yeah.
I agree.
So your platform is important.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, Nico. Thank you for your time and all your wisdoms, and we will see you again someday.
Thank you, Simone, very much. Bye-bye.
Guten Tag.
That was German.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Well, it was close, but you pronounced it German.
What am I? Okay, what's the pronunciation in Dutch?
Goedendag. So yeah, you have to do the.
That's way too hard.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the legendary Nico Knibbe, who makes us all jealous in Australia, talking about his utopia of patient handling in the Netherlands. Nico's been so generous with sharing a wealth of free patient handling resources, as well as all of his international insights. If anything from the show today has piqued your interest, I really hope you'll check out his websites and go on to learn more and share more beyond this podcast. You have been listening to the Manual Handling Collective podcast. If you're only listening through audio, we've also filmed this episode. If you want to see a little extra, see the link in the show notes. Subscribe to stay notified of future episodes, like, share, comment, and get in touch to hear more of what you want. If you know a guest who'd be a great fit for the show, just let me know.